Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
Naran Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiret
Tato Jayamudirahi.
Nashtaprayasu Bhadresu
Nashtaprayeshu Bhakteshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam.
Bhagavati Uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhavati Naishtiki.
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, title Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation, and verse number is verse number 21. Pritagvena tu yaj jnanam
Pritakvetna tu yajnanam.
nana bhavan prithak vidhan
Nana Bhavan Pritak Vidhan.
veti sarvesu bhutesu
Veti Sarveshu Bhuteshu.
tad jnanam vidhi rajasam.
Tatjnanam Vidhi Rajasam.
Pritagvena tu yaj jnanam
Pritakvena tu yajnanam.
nana bhavan prithak vidhan
Nana Bhavan Pritak Vidhan.
veti sarvesu bhutesu
Veti Sarveshu Bhuteshu.
Tajjnanam Vidhi Rajasam.
Tajnanam Vidhi Rajasam.
Anyone would like to lead? Prithakvena, because of division.
Pritakvena, because of division.
Tu, but.
Tu, but.
Yat, which.
Yat, which.
Jnanam, knowledge.
Jnanam, knowledge.
Nana Bhavan,
Nana Bhavan,
multifarious situations.
multifarious situations.
Prithak Vidhan,
Pritak Vidhan,
different.
different.
Veti, knows.
Veti, knows.
Sarvesu, in all.
Sarveshu, in all.
Bhutesu, living entities.
Bhuteshu, living entities.
Tat, that.
Tat, that.
Jnanam, knowledge.
Jnanam,
Jnanam,
knowledge.
knowledge.
Vidhi, must be known.
Dvi,
Vidhi,
must be known.
Rajasam,
Rajasam,
in terms of passion.
in terms of passion.
Translation by His Divine Grace C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
The knowledge by which
That knowledge by which
one sees that
one sees
that
in every different body,
in every
in
different
every
body,
different body,
there is a different type of living entity.
there is a
there is a
different
different type of living entity.
You should understand to be
You
You
should
should
understand
understand to be
in the mode of passion.
in the mode of passion.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone would like to read this purport by Srila Prabhupada?
The concept that go ahead, Prabhuji.
The concept that the metal body is the living entity and that which the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls. But there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special, individual, or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let's all chant together. अज्ञानातिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखावितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाश आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नीलाचल निवास नित्य परमात्मा बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful sangha. So last time in 18.20, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explaining the mindset of a person in mode of goodness in terms of identifying different species, because the person in mode of goodness sees everybody as one and the parts and part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. He thinks that this human being, the goat, the fish, the chicken, everybody is part and parcel of the Supreme, and they are indifferent. They're indifferent. The body may be different, but the soul is same in quality across a goat and a human being and a chicken and a fish and the 8.4 million species we talked about last time. So here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explaining about the mindset or the thought process of a person in mode of passion. Rajasam. Rajasam is in the mode of passion. So, what the person in mode of passion thinks? He thinks Pruthak Vena. That means Pruthak means different, different. There are Pruthak Venines because of division. Pruthak. Pruthak is a very commonly used word you find in many languages in from India. Pruthak means different. And here Lord is saying Pruthak Vena Tviyach Jnanam. That means and that jnana thinks that nana bhava pruthak vidhan. That means the species are different. Species are different and the souls are different. And the living entities within a given species is consistent. He thinks it's not as if the person in mode of passion doesn't think that there is no soul. He thinks that there is soul, but the soul of a human being is different from soul from a goat or a fish or a chicken or a tree. So he thinks that in the mode of passion, he thinks in that lineage of the species, the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and the soul is different between different species. And we have to discuss a little bit to get to the point as to why his Lord is saying that. So, if you think the knowledge about the soul and passion, so there is a diversity. So last time we said the man in mode of goodness, the person in mode of goodness, sees unity in diversity. And here it starts with Prithakvena. That means there is diversity. Nana Bhavan Prithakvidhan. They're all different bhavas, bhava, and they're all different natures. The nature of a fish is different from nature of a chicken, is nature of a goat, and things like that. Veti sarvesu bhutesu, one who sees all living beings in this way, differently. Tat jnanam vidhi rajas. That means knowledge is in the mode of passion. So, so in the mode of passion, one describes as one essential nature that which is one outer form. One sees there is tree. So the perception of the human being in understanding in the mode of passion, he sees an element of ownership in that species. And there is a difference between them and us. And that perception is very common in many other faiths, actually. If you look at some of the other faiths, they stay within the realm of their own species, and they tend to potentially violate other species. And the soul in an animal body, which is considered to be different, uh, because the body itself is different, the nature itself is different, their habits are different. So the perception is their soul is different. They do not consider, they seems to have an inferior mindset for other species, because of which there is a, a sense to kind of overcome that through the process of their lifestyle. But a man or a person in mode of goodness thinks that a goat or a chicken or a fish or a human being are all part and parcel of the Supreme. And because of the prarabdha karma, because of the consciousness which has transmigrated between one life to another, they are living in a different lifestyle. Living in a different lifestyle doesn't mean that they are not part and parcel of the Supreme. See, that's why Lord, if you think about it, Lord has come to this material world in many different forms, like a fish, like a boar, because Lord wants to protect his devotees. So the difference in species will not, should not differentiate between our thinking for every other species. We should all think in the right way, in the mode of goodness. We should see everybody to be part and parcel of the Supreme. We should not start differentiating between it. You'll see a lot of examples where you will see there'll be t-shirts people will be wearing, being human, being human, being human. But one such personality who is human, he should not only consider human being or the man or a woman to be part of the Supreme, and if anybody else to be in any way inferior, and you, it doesn't give you the right to consume them in a way which is not ethical, spiritual, or clean for that matter. So the mode of passion people, that was actually the number of people in the mode of passion, understanding the soul in the mode of passion, these are the maximum number of people in this world. And the and that's the reason why majority of the people in this world consider a non-human being to be some form of inferior, and that gives them that right to consume them. And that is a basic fundamental difference between, it's not a question of vegetarianism or a non-vegetarianism. it's a consider it's a consideration of understanding the knowledge of soul in the mode of passion. And that is the only difference, if you think about. And here we'll give example of a person in the mode of goodness. You have all heard about Bharat Maharaj. We have quoted it many times in our Bhakti Vriksha in this forum. So because of Bharat Maharaj's love for a deer in this life, Bharat Maharaj, when he went to forest uh, after he gave up Grihastha ashram and went on retirement, and he was living in a forest, he grew a lot of love for a deer. And when once the deer left, in separation from the deer, Bharat Maharaj, as you can see in this picture, left his body. So in the next life, Bharat Maharaj became a deer. And in the next life, he was so powerful in his thought process of consciousness. In the next life of the deer, he was also very conscious. And in the next life, immediately after the deer life, and life after Bharat Maharaj's life, in the second incarnation after Bharat Maharaj's life, he came as a person, but he hardly talks. It's not as if he's jada, in the sense he cannot speak. It's just that he choose not to speak because he knew everything. He knew about the creation, the cosmic manifestation, the soul, super soul, and everything. And but he was a stout person, and he was allowed, and he was basically pulled in, and basically, long story short, he was in the family. Everybody felt this person is not talking to each other. They kind of grumbled on him, and he left. And in one point in time, King Rahugan, the king's name was Rahugan, was part of, and he was looking for some Falcon transporters. And Bharat happened to be a very nice stout person, so they picked on him to be the Falcon carrier. But when Jadabharat was going, he was seeing ants on the road, and ants have soul. Because ants have soul, he used to he was trying to not step on the ant, and because of that, King Rahugan, who was in the Falcon in this picture, as you can see, he was getting shaken and he was getting angry. And after repeatedly doing it, when he didn't want to step on the ant, didn't want to step on the ant, he was shaking the Balkan. And King Rahugan became angry and came out. And he said, "What do you think about yourself? Who are you?" And at the time, Shadabharat replied, "I am not me, neither you are you." And then King Rahugan asked, took him to the side, and he wanted to find out about Jadabharat, and Jadabharat gave him the total knowledge about consciousness, about the soul and the super soul, and why everybody in this world have the right of a soul. And because we're qualitatively one and the same between an ant and a tree and a chicken and a goat and a human being, but quantitatively there might be different. There might be different habits, there might be different preferences. And because of that, and that interaction, Rahugan and Jadabharat Samvad was a very powerful dialogue between two great personalities. King Rahugan was also very knowledgeable. And then at the time, the kings at thousands and thousand years ago, the kings used to be very conscious of the supreme, and that's how. So those are essentially the understanding of the soul in the mode of goodness. But in the mode of passion, you think the other person is somehow, other species is somehow inferior, and you have the right to violate and basically kill, eat the flesh. So this being human concept, which you've been hearing with the t-shirt and all, we have to all recognize that being human is just not treating human being as human being. It's beyond that, in the sense that everybody is part and parcel of the supreme, and we should recognize each and everyone as, because Krishna says aham bija prajapita. He didn't say that I am the aham bija prajapita of the human beings only and not others. And that is where we discussed about the 8.4 million species, the aquatics, trees, insects, birds, quadrupeds, human species totaling to 8.4 million species. And and this basically gives a very clear indication of how we should recognize the understanding of the supreme personality, basically expressing that a person in mode of passion thinks, it's not as if he doesn't think that soul is not there, but he thinks soul in the confines of the species, in the pruthak. He differentiates, and that's the reason why he goes out. And sometimes he doesn't even think about human, and he goes and plunders human beings, as you may have seen in the past. You might have seen Alexander and Genghis Khan. They went and plundered and killed so many human beings because they were not even thinking. And that's probably the next verse we're going to discuss, as to how a person doesn't and that is the tamoguni, or the mode of ignorance, we're going to talk about. But in this world, there's a lot in the confines of people who think about mode of passion, and this basically gives a very strong indication of how passionately we should not think others to be uh, to be under your proprietorship, and because the sense of proprietorship makes us difficult in this universe, and that is not what Krishna is teaching us to be. We should always see everybody one and the same as part and parcel. Srila Prabhupada mentions that if life comes from life, and if you cannot give life, you have no right to take somebody else's life. And these things, as we go steadily and steadily and steadily, this will internalize in our system, and we will think that Krishna consciousness is a much higher cause, is a higher expression, how to treat everybody one and the same, and how not to be the proprietor in this world where we are actually infinitesimally small. We are the servant of the servant of the servant. Once that mindset sinks in, once 18.21 goes inside, we'll recognize that everybody is part and parcel of the Supreme, and we should treat everybody one and the same. So we can discuss more and more, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, your comments, and your reflections about how you have understood this verse in the context of how to see beyond the species, prathak, how to transcend beyond this differentiation and different divisions which exist within the species, and how to treat everybody equally. And if that mindset of equality sets in, our relationship with our wife, children, everybody for that matter, anybody outsider, it will become wonderful, and we will lead a very coherent life. So with that, I'd like to end here. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I'd like to hear your comments, reflections as to how this verse has inspired you or have reflected on you. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanvat Pranam, All Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you for that example was very good, Prabhuji, of the Jad Bharat and the how he transcended along the modes of passion, right? Along the modes of passion, he transcended from a ascetic to a deer to a Jad Bharat. And thank you, Prabhuji. But what I wanted to also emphasize here is that, as you have rightly told, the Krishna has already given this point earlier also in the Bhagavad Gita, and now since this is a conclusion, he told Brahmani, when you see a cow, a dog eater, and we should treat them actually. What I want to tell is that, Prabhuji, technical point is the soul is covered by the soul is covered by a layer of our subtle body, which is our mind, intelligence, and ego. So below that, that is just a wrapper, Prabhuji, to give you the analogy. That is that acts as a wrapper, but the soul within that wrapper is the same. It is universal and part and parcel of Krishna. That there is no pratak, there is no division in that, Prabhuji. That cat has a lower soul and a human has a higher soul or anything like that. Qualitatively, quantitatively, that's the same soul. Only what differentiates is the body, the gross body and the subtle body. The subtle body makes you act in such a way, and the gross body is what you get based on your karma, right? So, what I want to tell is that we can extend this beyond human beings. Means when we try to see a cat, dog, or any animal, we should not think that they are different, as the meat eaters does think. Like Prabhupada had many discussions with that they have no soul or lower soul. Even they say plant has a soul, but I don't know how to defend that, Prabhuji, that why we are eating plants even if they have a soul. But they do also have a soul, Prabhuji. They cry, they have feelings, they have, the touch me not flower, right? We studied in biology. When you touch them, it droops basically. So point is, Prabhuji, that they also have soul, but what we are learning from this verse is that that soul is same irrespective of the body
Mhm.
and irrespective of the outer cover, the subtle covering, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego. The soul is universal, which is part and parcel, Prabhuji.
Mhm.
And Krishna has told that no. The second point is second derivative of that is that that is between human and non-human. But within human also we try to differentiate. Oh, he's good, he's bad, he's black, he's American, he's white, right? That differentiation also we should also indirectly here we can take inference from this and say that we all are part and parcels of Krishna and behave with them as you rightly told. There won't be any kalash, there won't be any clash, and there won't be any uh, differences if we try to behave in that platform, which is the mode of goodness, Prabhuji. That when we try to see, even in our temple, if we try to see them as an individual, we may have issues. But if we see,
Mhm.
oh, he's also serving Krishna, I am also serving Krishna, we are equals and let's respect each other, then there will be very, very less difference, Prabhu.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you,
My
Prabhu.
reflections. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I just want to add 2 points to what you just said. For an animal, when somebody consumes, the animal leaves his body. He goes through suffering. He goes through he leaves his body. But in a plant, when you pluck a
Mm.
flower or a fruit, the plant survives. The plant doesn't
Okay.
leave the body, and it can procreate. But actually, that doesn't apply to probably roots and all, and that's where
Mm.
I would defer it to some of the other beliefs where who do not even eat roots. So all I want to say is
James. Yeah.
Jains, yeah. So all I want to say is whenever you take a mango or a brinjal or something like that, the suffering is not experienced because the plant survives after that, unlike,
Got it, Prabhu. Very good
yeah.
point. I never realized that point, Prabhu. That's good, Prabhu. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that point.
And there is one more thing I want to say, that in the temple, which I thought of mentioning in the last class in the temple, Aham Brahmasmi. So whenever we offer obeisances to somebody or treat it with respect to somebody in the temple, we are actually not uh, paying obeisances to XYZ Das or XYZ, you
Person.
know, person. We are
Right.
basically expressing our obeisances to
The
the
super soul
Brahman
in it.
within him, super soul. And so we basically
Mm.
pay obeisances to that. So that's why if we see that mindset, then we'll treat everybody with the same. And that's why Srila Prabhupada instituted everybody to call Prabhu and Mataji, because we have that awe and reverence for everybody. So thank you for sharing those points.
Even in Muslim, Prabhuji, that's what when you say Salam Walaikum, they say Walaikum Assalam. That means I pour to the Allah in your heart,
Hmm.
and respectively he's saying Walaikum Assalam. Same, I respect him. The concept is same, Prabhuji.
Hmm. Exactly. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very nice lecture and interesting one. Prabhuji, I have a question though, we say, about souls and all, but how does it gets created? Like, who creates them? Is there any end to souls? Like, if you see in this universe, like, is there any limitation how many souls can exist in this world? And let's say, soul, they don't have an end process, right? They move from one body to other, but all the decision has been made by the brain. Whatever body they take, in all thing, you know action has been conducted by the brain capacity, right? Let's say for human being, if brain is dead, then soul will ultimately also leave the body, right? So why you are not saying that brain is maybe more powerful, or has more decision power than souls? But we do say that soul doesn't die, it moves from one body to other, but nobody can see the soul, right? But who manages them? How many souls we can have in this universe?
Right, right, right. Yeah, great question, Prabhu. So as we discussed during Sarga and Visarga, Prabhu, in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, when a Lord is in the causal ocean, Karnadakshaya Vishnu, and through his exhale and inhale from the pores, the universes come, and from the universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is sitting, and from his navel, Brahmaji erupts, and then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into he creates Brahmaji, and then the first expansion of first quadruple expansion of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is present in each and every jiva. So it is mentioned from Karnadakshaya Vishnu to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu to Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the procreator of all the souls, based on Srimad Bhagavatam written by Vyasadeva. So when the soul, so that means soul is part and parcel of, in this example, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So he is actually present in every species, like a tiger or a human being, or anybody for that matter. So when the soul, okay, how you had two or three sub questions within that. So based on what Bhakti mentioned, you got a gross body of human being or a tiger or a fish, but then you have a subtle body which is filled with uh, man, buddhi, ahankar, mind, intelligence, false ego, which is actually the covering of the soul. And based on the consciousness of the subtle body, man, buddhi, ahankar, your the soul transmigrates based on the consciousness towards the end. So the whole life is a training, and then based on your ahankar, based on your mind, and based on your false ego, your body, based on, say for example, it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that if you eat like a hog, you probably become a hog. You expose your body like a tree, you will probably become a tree. And and there are references. So all I'm saying is, with this consciousness, it transmigrates from one to another. So your question is brain, right? So brain is actually a a gross body. A brain is actually a gross body. It has currents. That is why, and because the current cease to go, like say for example, Prabhu, I took my very near relative to. He doesn't have sense in his legs, and the neurology professor, he came and he did some testing, and he put probes all around his body, and he says that his lower leg is not getting the current. And when the leg is not getting the current, that portion of the leg which is not getting the current is becoming numb and numb and numb. That doesn't mean he's dead, right? So the presence of sense cannot be equated to the presence of soul. He is alive. He's still alive, actually, this person I'm referring to. So in certain part of brain, in certain part of our body, in certain part of our heart, we may cease to have some activity, but that doesn't mean soul has left the body. But a official or a spiritual definition of somebody who is dead is when the soul has left the body. So I would like to just mention that it is the soul's presence or absence which makes the body a living body, or a dead body, not the other way around. And your question is, how many souls are there? See,
Yes.
souls are part and parcel of the Supreme. We transmigrate based on the subtle body, the covering we mentioned, and based on our habits, based on our upbringing, based on our prarabdha karma, we may take a different birth. But if you have done enough pious credits, Prabhu, you may go back to Godhead, wherein the soul doesn't have to come back to live this wretched life after life. after life. So it is based on your consciousness and conditioning. So the 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 the, the personalities who are conscious, who are working to go back to Godhead, they will, the soul will go and merge with Hirodakshaya Vishnu in this example. And then the others who, by virtue of their man buddhi ahankar, are really playing and not being conscious. And Krishna has mentioned it many times, the people who come back to him, urdhams gachati sattvata. Krishna has mentioned people go up the planetary system based on the goodness,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. So based on that, we go up and down the planetary system based on the activities we end up doing. So we should always try to be conscious and
Mhm.
work towards going back to Godhead, and not coming back to this wretched life, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, uh, all the time. So that's, so I thought I touched on everything, but if
Yes,
you
Prabhu.
still have question, we can still talk about it.
And thank you,
I have
Prabhuji.
one
That
point
makes
to
sense.
add, Prabhuji. I have one point to add. The quantification of the souls, uh, there is no fixed, Prabhuji. It is how I understand. I'm just revealing that when we want to enjoy ourselves, we get detached from that super soul, which is Krishna, and we have to do all this process to go back and get attached. But Prabhupada gives a very good concept, Prabhuji. Um, uh, from the infinite, because Krishna is infinite. From the infinite, if something goes, it remains infinite only, Prabhuji. It doesn't. It's not like at a material level. If something is reduced, it becomes 100 becomes 88 or 98 or something, right? 100 remains 100 in the spiritual atmosphere. So the number of souls is basically where we are part and parcel of Krishna. Whenever we wanted to enjoy, we got detached, but there is no, I think we can't quantify that the number of souls are they constant, like how people quantify our number of breaths are constant and we live only until our number of breaths. Right? That is one conception people have. I think it is not like that, Prabhuji. Similarly, the souls are not uh, limited to a particular number. It is from the infinite we come out when we want to enjoy ourselves, and we go back. But it doesn't affect Krishna because he's the is so infinite. That is one point I wanted to add, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, bro. Any other
Thank you.
comments? It's a good discussion. Bala Prabhu, thank you
Hare
so
Krishna
much for
Prabhuji.
joining. You have, okay. Niranjan Prabhu, you have a question? Sorry.
So Prabhuji, nice class Prabhuji, thank you so much. Just wanted to know Prabhuji how we differentiate the souls. For example, let's say after I move to different body or maybe right. So I have a soul within me,
Hmm.
and you also have a soul within you. So how I differentiate like those two souls? I mean, is there any identification or we are simply part and parcel of God? So that is the
Yeah.
only identification.
Hmm. So, this Prabhu, soul is qualitatively uh, the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead likes to eat. You also like to eat. He has some qualities to dress, Sringar. You like it. See, the quality of soul is see, Krishna has many qualities, and primarily he has 64 qualities, which is complete and full. It is mentioned by our. So qualitatively, Prabhu, we are more or less same. You all have the same qualities as the Supreme, but quantitatively, in terms of beauty, in terms of courage, in terms of this, that, we are very much different from the Supreme. So, because of these subtle values, such as our mind is not in control, our mind wants to live and enjoy without the Supreme. Lord Krishna is very merciful. He says, hey, go enjoy. If you really want to enjoy and eat like a hog. I grant you that you become a hog. And all this science is very well laid out in Puranas, Upanishads, Vedas. So to answer your question, Prabhu, we are qualitatively different. Our soul is part and parcel of this, but because of umpteenth number of birth and death and birth and death and conditioning, our soul has become bit digressed, and we are all trying to focus in our origin by focusing on the Supreme, by chanting, by doing devotional service, so that we all think alike. We think as the servant of the servant of the servant. And once we end up doing that, we become closer and closer and closer to the Supreme and his devotees. And that's when it becomes aligned. So when Srila Prabhupada created this wonderful institution, he wanted everybody to get a chance to align and go back to Godhead, because he was very sad to see that these people who do not understand the inherent transcendental science, they're suffering, 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 suffering. So he wanted to institute that focus and built on consciousness. So qualitatively, Prabhu, as we do more and more of this, we will become more and more similar, and we will focus. We will not have envy. We will not have, anxiousness to eat this, that. We will be very much self-control. Our mind will be focused. Our intelligence will be based on the transcendental science, and ahankar will not have the ego, and it will all and then the outer covering will become more and more aligned to the intent of the Supreme, and then will become similar. And so it is essentially the subtle body which makes a different gross body. We all are different. Somebody's 5 feet, somebody's 6 feet, somebody people are even 7 feet. So a gross body is not important. It's essentially how to mind, how to mind our false ego, how to mind our intelligence, so that we go back to Godhead. Was that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. For example, Prabhuji, let's say I have a bank account, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like for my account number, I know what is my balance, right? For
Mm-hmm.
example, like we all like souls, right? So once we transmigrate, right? So whatever karma that we did, right, in our lives, those there should be some identification, right? For this soul, let's say this is the karma he did last.
Mm-hmm.
So this soul, so how is that identification? I mean, is there any like in my software term, I say there is a unique ID, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
we identifies, each and every soul there is ID, right? So
Yeah.
similarly, like that I wanted to know, right? How do we identify like this is the soul which has this much karma he did, okay, like last life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah,
So this karma is essentially credits or debits. You did a good karma, you got some pious credits. You got bad karma, you got some debits. So those credits and debits are in the eyes of the Supreme. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has accounting of all the good and bad, the plus and minus you have done. And all these IDs are with him. So there is a pointer he has. For some reason, you will see references in Bhagavad Gita, or where Lord is mentioning, okay, for that act you did, this is the repayment you're doing. For Vishmadev, for everybody, there are anecdotes, there are instances, there are pastimes where Lord, by virtue of the past, he has indicated at the time of death that because of that you did this, because of this you did that. And that identification is there by the Supreme, and he has controlled all these unique IDs to point to all the pluses and minuses you have done. Likewise, based on the scriptures we have recognized, Prabhu, based on that, he has all the tally and accounting of all the pious credits you have done, and he has maintained it in the accounting. And we just have to recognize that you can dodge accounting here and there. You might like not to do it, That's not right. But in the eyes of God, He has all the aspects. When nobody is seeing you, the God is seeing you. So that's the reason why He has everything, and we should not try to do anything which is not regulated, which is not within the approval of the Supreme and Guru and Sadhu and Shastra.
And also,
Okay.
Prabhuji, the soul is tagged by the subtle covering, Prabhuji. That is how it differentiates. The soul is tagged by that. So that's how Krishna knows that this is. And also they say, right, Prabhuji, that when you the Yamaraja, you when the soul leaves the body, but we get the same body back there to suffer or whatever we are supposed, the karma, the debit or the credit, right? So he has a point of tagging, Prabhuji. They have that soul, but subtle body is the tag, Prabhuji, which differentiate, which basically, to answer your question, that is a unique ID, basically acts as a unique ID. Soul plus the subtle covering, that wrapper, that is the wrapper which differentiates, Prabhuji. That's what I wanted to tell.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the explanation. And there is a verse in 15th chapter, I think, Lord says that Mame Vansa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. I mean, we all are the part and parcels of the living Supreme Lord. Yeah. Thank you so
Right.
much.
Exactly. Mama Vangsa Jiva Loke. Jyota Sanatana means everybody is
Eternal.
it's eternal actually. If all of us are eternal, and Mama Vangsa means we are all angsas or part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and because of that, if we start to go astray significantly, Lord gives us a speed breaker to get back, and that's the reason why we need these uh, beautiful books, the verses, the Vedic injunctions, I guide a guru to really get us all together, and the power of devotees covering, which will make us come back and cleanse our anarthas and kleshas. Okay, Prabhu? Any other comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other question, comments, Prabhu? So next Sunday is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. So there will be big celebration. There will be a lot of services the day before. If you want to extend your service, please let us know. And also, if you are chanting and you want to up your number of rounds you're chanting, please reach out so that you could take a vow. This is the time of the year during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. We take vows to increase our devotional service. If you're chanting 2 rounds or 4 rounds, make it 8. If you're doing 8, make it 12 or 18. There are different certificates which is going to be given out. It's a vow, and it's a good opportunity to really stand in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the lordships and take a vow, so that it kind of uh, strengthens us in our ability to focus and do more and more and more every year and every step of the way. If you want to do any of that, please let me know. We will prepare your certificates beforehand so that when you come on Sunday, you can take the vows and be part of the certificate giving activity. Okay. Anything I missed? Okay. So let's pray at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha kalpataruvasya kripa
Kalparubhyasya kripa
sindhu
sindhubhyasya
vayo patitanam
patitanam
pavanevyo Vaishnavavyo namo namo.
Vaishnavavyo
वैष्णव वृंद की जय,
Niki jai.
ग्रंथराज भगवद गीता की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि
और
हरि बोल।
हरि बोल। Prem Jagannath Prabhu.